Hello, BookTube. I have some more mail for you today on what has turned out to be a surprisingly healthy mail week. Nothing at all like the torrents, the great piles that we used to get back in the pre-pandemic days, but still, I'll take it. Not that bad at all, especially when you consider that a huge amount of this is supplemented by electronic books. So we've got 4 packages here, no boxes, but the first package, it's a manila envelope, but it is big. It is big. Now, as this is a manila envelope, I'm assuming that it is a paperback advanced copy of something. And I can only think of 3 books that are coming out anywhere in the year that are this big. There'll be more that are, 1,000 pages or more. There'll be more of those, but they aren't on listings yet. They're still they're in limbo, so they won't start to become real until the autumn season, when big histories and big biographies tend to flood the shelves. So I'm not 100% sure what this could be, but we will see. We will see. No, it's a box. It's not an advanced copy of anything at all. Oh. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Okay. Allow me to collect myself. I have mentioned all week long we've had a very healthy mail week, but I have mentioned all week long that part of what's made it healthy is that quite a few of you have been breaking the rules. Number 1 rule being the same for you as it's been for everybody who's ever known me: don't send me a book. Don't give me a book. I know it seems like the most natural present in the world, but don't do it. Don't give me a book. Because I will either already have it, or I won't have it because I don't want it. And a few times in the last week, some of you have taken it upon yourself to disregard that rule and send me books anyway, and every single time that has happened, it has been a bullseye, and that is just random chance. That's dumb luck. Sooner or later, you're going to be out hard-earned money and risk of a pandemic to go to a post office in order to mail me something that I already have or don't want. And one of you has done it again. And once again, it is an absolute bullseye. Here, let me open it. It's still in the original plastic wrapping. I'm not going to stay in that for very long, that's for sure. This is an uncanny guess on the part of one of you, unless it's not a guess, unless it's knowledge. And I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 people who know my book situation well enough so that this is knowledge. I think this is a guess, and it's an incredibly lucky guess, especially since it flies in the face of everything you know. This is the Library of America. This is their first box set of classic American science fiction. 2-volume box set of classic American science fiction. In these lovely editions here. And the reason why this is an incredibly lucky guess is because I'm familiar with 5 different publicists at the Library of America. I get everything that they put out. I got this originally, and I got, of course, it's right up on the shelf there. I got the second box set. This is going decades by decades of great American science fiction, and we talked about it on this channel. I talked about how with anthologies you never know what you're going to get, and half the fun is arguing with the editor over what they include or what they don't include. Of course, a lot of that isn't the editor's choice. A lot of that is just, the vagaries of literary estates or copyrights or whatnot. But if you're watching this channel, you had to know that I had that second volume, and you had to know this volume came out before we started talking to each other, I believe. But you had to know that I must have had it, that I'm on Library of America's list. I don't, it turns out, have this. I had this box set, and I gave it away. And you couldn't have known that, because this box set came out before we started talking to each other, and I don't know, unless somebody remembered it from one of my library tours, but that seems unbelievable. How would you know? No. I can think of 3 people off the top of my head who would know that I don't have this already. two who are really familiar with the ins and outs of stuff going in and out of my library, and the recipient, the person who actually received the box set that I had originally. I don't think any one of those three people watches this channel. This is just a lucky guess. This is one of you saying, I know Steve likes science fiction, I know he likes box sets, and I know he likes the Library of America. This could have gone very wrong, is what I'm saying, but it didn't. It didn't. This is, oh my God. I'm never going to get you. You people are never going to believe me now. I'm going to say, don't get me a book, and you're not going to believe me. I should tell you, this is edited by Gary Wolfe. This is from classic novels from the 1950s. And what we have in here is, let me read them from the book. There's one volume here. They have classic old cheesy science fiction paperback covers. And this red volume has The Big Time by Fritz Leiber, Who by Algis Budrys, A Case of Conscience by James Balish, The Star is My Destination by Alfred Bester, and Double Star by Robert Heinlein. So those are the two that are in this thing. And then we have this volume. Look at that. Calling the Ships Down. And this one has The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson, The Long Tomorrow by Leigh Brackett, More Than Human by Ted Sturgeon, and The Space Merchants by Fred Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. And I would disagree with including some of those things, but others, no. I read the whole of one volume through when I got this the first time from Library of America. I think I read the second volume, the More Than Human volume. I think I read that. I read the whole of that through, including ones that I hadn't thought I liked, that I hadn't read in forever. But not, I believe, the second, not the other volume. So this is this is a bullseye. Nevertheless, don't send me a book. Don't do it. All right, we're going to move on here. I believe, I'm a little leery now, but I believe the rest of these packages are all from publishers. So we'll move on and see what we get here. You are not getting the bean. When I'm sitting up on a chair like this, you're not getting the bean. She is in the room. She insisted on that. She put her little hands up in the air to get me to pick her up and carry her from room to room. She's starting to like that. She's starting to like me picking her up and carrying her from room to room. I can't, now that she's a little bit of an older dog, I don't quite so readily grab her by the scruff of her neck. It's easy to do. It looks very cruel to people who don't know dogs, but puppies, you can pick them up and carry them around by the scruff of their neck. It doesn't bother them at all. They don't feel it in the slightest. It's like if you were being carried around in a sleeping bag. But the older a dog gets, the less play there is in that excess flesh, the less comfortable it is to be picked up by the scruff of the neck. I can still do it with Rita without causing her any discomfort at all. But what she likes now is for me to, she spends a huge amount of time on her hind legs. She loves to do that. She loves to spend time on her hind legs. So what she likes to do is just stand up on her hind legs, and I will grab her. I will put hands underneath her armpits and just, put pressure on her abdomen and lift her up that way. And she very much liked that. And when she saw me coming in here to the little book room, she was on the couch and in the other room, and she did that so that I would pick her up. So she's in here. But I don't know if I can get this to show you. There's the bean. She didn't want to be on camera, but she is here in the room. She doesn't like to be away from me. So what do we got? Oh, okay. All right, this next one is early February. I tried real hard. I'm part of Flatiron Books here, the publicist. I tried real hard to get an editor, a paying editor with a huge audience interested in this book. They all said no. Maybe understandably, but still. This is by Ina Park. I believe we've seen this before. This is Strange Bedfellows. It is a natural history of STDs, which those of you who are very young who are watching, yes, STD is my initials. This is Stephen T. Donoghue. But it also stands for something else, a particular kind of bug that humans can transmit to each other while doing a particular kind of thing. They can also transmit it to other animals, and other animals can transmit it to them. So let me read you a little bit about this. Needless to say, that is a genius cover. just genius. It's an awkward subject, and that is what caused my a whole bunch of editors to say, I really appreciate your enthusiasm, but no. As public health remains a significant concern for many across the nation, the author, medical consultant for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, explores some of the most prevailing causes of infection in human history, the aforementioned STDs. Tackling a wide array of health topics with empathy, humor, and inclusivity, this book ventures beyond the bedroom to examine the hidden role and influence of many wildly misunderstood infections. Once again, those of you who are very young, you have to understand, there are tiny living animals, tiny living creatures everywhere. Just everywhere. Now, if you're very young and you're thinking of ants here, think about something so small that thousands of them could live on one ant. That's how small we're talking. Thousands and thousands of tiny little living things like that live everywhere. You couldn't live without them. They actually help your body to function. And you've got them all over you. Whole zoos of them all over you. The tiny, tiny little animals so small you're never going to encounter them. They're never going to bother you. The tiny little animals that live on your eyelashes or in between the hairs of your eyebrows or on the scalp of your head. And we're not talking lice here or anything, harmful or ugly or gross like that. We're talking about, again, something so small that 1,000 of them could live on one louse. The animals that live there are on their 800th generation. They've never in a million years encountered the animals that live between your toes or in the hairs of your leg. They're totally different worlds. And the animals being talked about in this book are one particular kind of those tiny, tiny little animals that humans can transmit to each other and that can be an enormous amount of trouble. Okay, our author is an associate professor at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, medical consultant for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and medical director of the California Prevention Training Center. Good Lord. She holds degrees from the University of California, Berkeley, UCLA School of Medicine, and the University of Minnesota School of Public Health. Those of you who are in Minnesota, don't I remember that the University of Minnesota School of Public Health is, despite its unprepossessing name, world-class? Don't I remember reading that that particular thing, that particular organization is absolutely great? I could be thinking of someone else, but I think I'm thinking of them. So that's an incredibly impressive resume for someone who is very young. That's amazing. So this comes out on February the 2nd. I've already read an electronic copy of this, but I will gladly reread the hardcover, and I will review it. I will review it. One of the benefits of having your own venue is that if every editor in Christendom says no, I can still review the thing, and I want to, because I really enjoyed it. So we'll move on to this next one here. This is one of these asbestos envelopes that you've got to open them just right if you want to avoid spraying asbestos all over the place. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, we did. Good. All right, so we've got a bunch of books here. Oh, no. Oh, no. It's 3 slim volumes of poetry. The first one is Bone Rosary, New and Selected Poems by Thomas Lynch. Pretty nice cover. Then the next one is American Wake, Poems by Karen McCaden. And the third is Wicked Enchantment, Poems by Wanda Coleman. So we have 3 slim volumes of poetry. Let's see here. Do we have any kind of information on these? Bone Rosary comes out at the end of March. American Wake also comes out at the end of March. And the Wicked Enchantment comes out at the end of March. These all come out in the 3rd week of March. So 3 volumes of poetry from Godine Press. And then the last of these packages, they all feel anticlimactic because of the first one, which wasn't from a publisher at all. It was from one of you, contravening rule number 1, which is don't send me a book. And it's going to be impossible to enforce that rule if every one of you keeps guessing correctly. But anyway, oh no, oh no. All right, this is brand new. This is from the folks at the University of Chicago Press, but it has its proper recipient over on the west coast of Ireland. This is The Experimental Fire by Jennifer Rampling. Subtitle, Inventing English Alchemy, 1300 to 1700. What have we got here? In medieval and early modern Europe, the practice of alchemy promised extraordinary physical transformations. Who would not be amazed to see base metals turned into silver and gold, hard iron into soft water, and deadly poisons into elixirs that could heal the human body? To defend such claims, alchemists turned to the past, scouring ancient books for evidence of a lost alchemical heritage and seeking to translate the secret language and obscure imagery into replicatable, practical effects. And that cover copy is worth mentioning. Of course, Jason Harrigan is the person to talk to about this, but nevertheless, even from what I know, that cover copy makes an important point. People often think of alchemy, they think, okay, it was a failed scientific branch. The subtitle here tells you, 1300, 1700, that it had a long life. 1300 is not when it started. It had a very long life. Yes, it was a failed scientific study, but it cast a lot of, like sparks, it cast off a lot of great inquiries that did prove to be fruitful. And people too often characterize it as people trying to transmute base metals into gold, which makes it sound like every alchemist working in his lab was greedy. When that cover copy it makes a very good point. Hard iron into soft water and deadly poisons into elixirs that could heal the human body. Many, many, many alchemists didn't care about transmuting base metals into gold. They wanted to transmute harmful or useless things into useful things for the human condition, to improve the human condition. You could say that some of their aims were medical, altruistic. So this sounds fascinating. This sounds just fascinating. This traces the development of alchemy over 4 centuries in England. And the author is Associate Professor of History at Princeton University. Okay, well, I'm going to read this, but I think I should probably pop it in the mail to Ireland. I think that Jason's going to love it, not just read it. So there you go. That is our mail for today. We have The Experimental Fire, a new book on alchemy in England. We have Wicked Enchantment by Wanda Coleman, a collection of poetry. We have American Wake by Karen McCadden, another collection of poetry. We have Bone Rosary by Thomas Lynch, another collection of poetry. So for March, I'm all set up for poetry. Then we have Strange Bedfellows, a new, very engaging history of STDs. And finally, American science fiction classic novels of the 1950s in a 2-volume box set from Library of America. Incredible. Incredible. It has to be just a lucky guess. The number of people who would know that I don't have a copy of this, and that I have privately been saying the Brattle will provide, I will sooner or later find a copy. The number of people who know that enough to go and buy a copy and have it sent to my front doorstep is very small. This has to have been just a lucky guess by one of you. And the point I'm trying to make, in addition to thank you so much, thank you more than I can say. The point I'm trying to make is that lucky guesses run out. You don't want to spend time and effort and money to risk your health to send me a book I already have or don't want. But that having been said, I'm not giving this up. So there we go. That was our mail for the day. But I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.